My name's Garry Wilson. I was told I wasn't allowed to say I'm a fellow of the Institute of Engineering and Technology, but I just have. Sorry about that. It's because but bizarrely, I spent most of my career working in the mechanical environment, but haven't been invited to join us yet. And bizarrely, actually, I'm here to talk about mechanical products. My colleague John Beasley, who's a fellow of the IMechE, is going to the electronics conference in a few weeks' time to present. We've done that because he says I need to learn more about transmissions, and I think he needs to learn more about electronics. But we're not here to talk detail. I mean, if you want a detailed technical presentation on transmissions, you're in the wrong place. But what I am here to do is tell you how we can help fund your projects to turn your transmission technologies into products developed here in the UK, which I hopefully will be of interest to you. So I think the easiest thing to do is to actually run the video, which means I can then shut up for the rest of the 20 minutes.
Britain is home to leading global pioneers in advanced propulsion, from internal combustion engines to electronic machines and power electronics, and from energy storage and management to lightweight vehicle and powertrain structures. The UK is a thriving propulsion nation. World-class universities and R&D centres of excellence provide the perfect environment for the creation of low-carbon propulsion concepts ready for development. 9 out of the top 10 global suppliers have a UK base. Britain is home to 11 of the world's largest vehicle manufacturers, 8 Formula One teams, commercial and specialist vehicle manufacturers, motorcycle and off-highway producers, all bringing products to launch. The motor industry and government have come together through the Automotive Council to create the Advanced Propulsion Centre, offering practical advice, resources and funding to help organisations like yours. The APC programmes help bridge the gap between great ideas and commercial production, working with organisations as they turn technology into products. The APC team helps drive progress from a clean sheet of paper to the delivery of millions of consumer products, bringing in-depth knowledge of propulsion and low-carbon technology and global experience of automotive and engineering program delivery to your organisation. If your technology fits into one of the strategic technologies for the UK automotive industry, then we can help. These include internal combustion engines, electronic machines and power electronics, energy storage and management, lightweight vehicle and powertrain structures. And if you've developed the idea from concept to technology readiness level 6 or manufacturing readiness level 4, you really should be talking to us. The Advanced Propulsion Centre will help you develop partnerships and build the relationships needed to turn your technology into a product. Business planning, road mapping, technology readiness levels, and manufacturing readiness levels. We share the risk and we provide access to funding to make it happen. The Advanced Propulsion Centre is a £1 billion, 10-year programme created by government and industry to help organisations like yours turn low-carbon propulsion technologies into on- and off-road products, securing UK jobs and economic growth. The APC has a central hub at the University of Warwick, supported by spokes, providing functional, technological and regional capability across the UK. Get in touch with the APC today and see how we can help you bring your low-carbon propulsion technology to market. Search online for Advanced Propulsion Centre or visit our website apcuk.co.uk.
That pretty much sums it up. Maybe I'll put a little bit more detail onto it, but that is pretty much what sums up what we're about and how we can help you. Give you a little bit about the background to how the APC was formed and came about. In 2008-2009, the new Automotive Innovation and Growth Team was established with a combination principally of industry folks with some government folks involved, to actually try and coalesce the industry working on common challenges in terms of the UK auto industry, rather than continually competing, because particularly with the emissions agenda, there was a lot of areas where we as an industry needed to advance the technology. So working together was going to be more beneficial, and particularly when we're looking at the UK industry. The group came together and started looking at the roadmaps. What was the roadmaps for the future? And the bottom left here is the principal roadmap, the high-level one, about the direction that we needed to go in terms of achieving the objectives, the legislative objectives principally. That became, in 2009, the Automotive Council, which was chaired until Christmas by Richard Parry-Jones, the former CTO of Ford, and is still co-chaired by Vince Cable. That group has got the major industry leaders from Tier 1s, OEMs, and some SME representation from the UK auto industry. It's got a couple of subgroups. The technology group, which is the larger one, the group that's focused on developing the roadmaps, and John is part of that group, and I'm sure there might be one or two others in the room that are part of that group. The supply chain group, which I sit on, is once again obviously focused on, clear from the term, on the developing the supply chain and what we need to do in that arena. The group developed the roadmap, but also the strategic technologies which we needed to work on collectively as an industry to advance the automotive industry in this country. And that's the 5 petals, or leprechaun coffins, or whatever the terminology that people tend to call them. You will notice that there isn't actually one for transmissions as yet. But certainly it's within the remit of the Advanced Propulsion Centre, which I will talk about in a moment. And the roadmaps are continually being refreshed, continually being reviewed, and looking at which other roadmaps we need to include. For example, we're developing a fuels roadmap at the moment, looking at other forms of energy storage and a mechanical roadmap. And also there is discussion at the moment about how do we actually do a transmissions and hydraulic roadmap. So it's continually being refreshed. In 2013, the group started looking at the industry strategy and what we needed to do in terms of the automotive industry to push ourselves ahead and really affirm our position in the global marketplace here in the UK. That document, about 120-page document, and actually it is one of the government white papers that actually is worth a read, because it's actually pretty much driven by industry, and it's actually a very good document. That's the target there: to create competitive, growing and dynamic UK automotive industry, making a large and increasing contribution to employment and economic growth in the UK. I'll come back to the latter themes as we go through. Essential 4 elements of it were the business environment, EU, the world market, legislation, investing in people. We all know the challenge we have with recruiting engineers. The supply chain, increasing the percentage of UK content in vehicles manufactured in this country, for example. And then innovation in technology. And that's where the Advanced Propulsion Centre came from. The requirement, or the need to fill this void of pushing propulsion forward in this country and actually bridging the gap to get product from prototype to the point of productionization, commercialization, if you will. Just to explain a couple of things where we fit in and how we manage ourselves. We are actually a UK limited company, established at the back end of 2013. So we came out of the back of that strategy. We need to set up an Advanced Propulsion Centre to manage this money, and I'll talk a little bit about the money in a moment. Because we're managing government money, we have to have a lot of governance structures in place. So we have a board of directors that's from industry, academia and government, and we have an advisory group which is a subset of the Automotive Council Technology Group. So we've got some key players from that environment. We manage the distribution of the funds through competitions. Many of you will be aware of the TSB IDP calls, similar format. In fact, it's exactly the same forms, but there is another challenge in amongst it in terms of our requirements. We're also putting together a Centres of Excellence collective, if you like, or network across the country, which we're calling the Spoke Network, which is Centres of Excellence around the petals that you saw earlier, so that we can support the industry getting directly to where the R&D needs to be done and support industry in getting the best in terms of innovation from this country. And one of our roles is to promote the UK industry and the UK propulsion industry. Where do we fit in? We're a 10-year partnership between industry and government, as the video said, to build this UK capability in R&D and industrialisation of low-carbon propulsion technologies. Fundamentally, we got £500 million from the Treasury. When the white paper said the APC is a good idea, we need to do this. BIS were asked by the technology group to go and see if they could get some money, and the thought was, well, maybe get 10 million here, 20 million there. But the head of the auto unit at BIS thought it would be a bit of a laugh to go and hit Treasury for £500 million. When they got up off the floor, they thought it was such an audacious request. They said yes. So that's a lesson for us all, actually. But I think what's the expression? Better be hung for a sheep than a lamb. So what are we about? I won't necessarily read through this, but this encapsulates what we're about. We're investing in promising products, processes and people over the next 10 years. Sorry, I ought to go back to the chart. We've got £500 million from government to invest in industry. The other, it's match funded. So effectively any project you bring forward, we'll put in 50%, which is the government money. You have to fund the other half. But the other half can be resources. It doesn't have to be actual physical money. We enable advanced propulsion technology to be ready for on and off-road applications, so we're turning technologies into products to drive investment in the UK. We want to embed expertise and know-how in the UK. That's what we're all about. If we can embed R&D and know-how here, typically you'll actually then follow with the product production. We've seen the embedding of factories in the UK from overseas organisations, but the R&D is still left overseas. We actually want to cement more and more R&D here, because then it will actually attract more of the potential production, especially if the point that we're raising here, encourage collaboration between SMEs, vehicle manufacturers and their suppliers. If we encourage SMEs into the frame, then we're getting the technologies, working with the bigger companies, and that gets embedded in the UK. The bottom line is the important one when you start putting together your bids, is creating value for money. And that's the essence, and the subtle difference between our documentation and that of the TSB, Innovate UK. It's the same form, the same documentation. When you put in your bid, it talks all about the technology. What's your idea? How are you going to do it? What's innovative? What's the value add? Why is it additional to what you would normally do? All of those questions that you'll have come across in terms of putting a bid in. It's not onerous. It's quite time consuming, but it's not onerous. The challenge is, whereas a TSB project is the assessors evaluate the value for money, our documents go to the economists at BIS, the Business Department for Business Innovation and Skills, and they dig quite deep into it, because it's all about commercialisation and generating value for money in the UK economy. I don't want to scare you off with that. If your project stands merit, then that's great. We want to get as many projects through as we possibly can to grow propulsion in the UK. So just to come back to, you saw the little bridge in the video. Oh, one thing I need to say about the video, by the way, we were wrong on 2 accounts in the video. One, when we made it, there was 8 Formula 1 teams. There's now only 6. Maybe might be a 7th. And the other one is, I've got an Irish colleague in the audience here. You've got to be really careful when you present that video in Northern Ireland, because it opens with saying Britain is, and you don't want to be saying that in Northern Ireland, because it's United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. So we need to change our video to say the UK is, which we're going to be doing shortly. Well, where do we fit? You're all familiar with the Innovate UK TSB, and they'll work on projects from about TRL 3 onwards. Some of the projects, and I know we did a project at Torotrak when I was there, that was going to take a product further than TRL 6. So Innovate, sort of, there is overlap here. The early stage blue sky thinking is pretty much funded by EPSRC through universities, and then it'll move into Innovate UK, and then we'll fill the gap from TRL 5. We say 6 in the video, we will entertain TRL 5 level projects. And actually, if people have got a project where they need to have funding support from 5 to 8, but actually they need to do some earlier innovation, but they want to be able to know that they've got security of the later stage funding, we will entertain a discussion about, you'll need to get your funding from 3 to 5, but we can then talk about a gateway, then we'll fund it onwards. So you can actually put in the second stage and get it approved, subject to getting to your gateway. So we're open for discussions in a multitude of different ways, because it's important to get the products to production in the UK. One thing we are doing is we do recognise that it is quite a challenge both for SMEs to get an audience with OEMs and Tier 1s, and it's also a challenge, and we're finding a number of OEMs are talking to us saying, we need more ideas. How do we engage with SMEs? And often we find that the SMEs aren't ready to engage with an OEM. They're not quite at the level they need to be. So we put together this technology developer accelerator program. And that's to work with some SMEs to actually develop their product to a point, help them develop their product to a point where we can actually put it into one of our programs. The pilot that's running at the moment, we had 22 applicants. We're sifting that down to 10. And the 3 stages you see there, we expect that probably will pop out of the back of that 3 to 4 companies with a prototype ready that we can then take to OEMs and Tier 1s to actually help them get it put through a program and put into production. Towards the back end of this year, the pilot will be done, and then we'll be opening it up and making it a larger program. As well as this, we will be doing introduction meetings, so we'll be doing Meet the Engineer, Meet the Buyer type events. And when the OEMs that have said to us, we need some innovation, we need some help, we'll be taking some key companies along to those OEMs and introducing them. And they're really looking to us to do some sifting, so they're not got 40 Fred in the sheds knocking on their door with wacky ideas. They're actually taking something that they can realistically use in their products. And that's a service that we will be providing. In terms of the competitions, we've run 3 competitions so far. The first and second, the first one, we had 4 projects came through the first wave. The second wave, we had 2 competitions came through, and the third, which I'll come on to in a moment, has just closed, and it's been well oversubscribed in terms of applications, which is great. That's what we want. We want to be in a position where it's oversubscribed so that we can go back to Treasury saying, there is a huge pull for this. Can we have some more money, please? The intention is to run 2 competitions per year, and the idea of that is that certainly the OEMs and the large Tier 1s can get into a cadence, knowing that in their product cycles, they can say, well, if we do this project, we know that we can go forward for some funding from the APC. Obviously, it has to be approved. Probably no more onus than getting a project approved at their own board, but that they can come forward at a point in time for an APC project. Typically, spring and October. In terms of the competition focus, at the moment, it's have at it. And we cover the 3.5 petals currently. So energy storage, internal combustion, electric machines and power electronics, and lightweight powertrain structures. We don't cover lightweight vehicle structures. I think it's the clues in the name. But there are other areas that we do cover. Clearly, transmissions is a propulsion system. There's other electronic systems, full hybrid system controls are all within our remit. And at the moment, when I say have at it, our projects are open. We will start looking at themed areas where we're seeing that there's a need for more projects. We will start actually putting specific themes out there, and it might be that we'll do at a point in time themed transmission projects. In terms of making the difference, the first 6 projects, the economic value add calculations by BIS came to the conclusion that we'd be saving 5 million tonnes of CO2 and about 2,500 jobs created, and 37 organisations were involved in those first 6 projects. So from their perspective, very successful, and it's £180 million committed on those first 6 projects. One of those projects, and I know there's some folks in the room from Cummins, one of those projects is diesel-electric propulsion systems for buses, effectively electric stop-start system, and that was a just under £10 million programme of which we funded 50%. And you can see in there there's 3 divisions of Cummins involved, and 2, interestingly, Dynex and Casselet are 2 aerospace SMEs moving across into the automotive environment. And there was a university involved. Our projects don't require a university to be involved because we're much later in the TRL stage, but certainly we're encouraging universities to get involved because a lot of universities do actually industrial challenge-led R&D. As I mentioned, APC 3 with the rusty version of one of John's gears on it has just closed. We'll be announcing the winners in March ahead of PERDA, which is ahead of when we close down. We can't say anything ahead of the election. The election is causing us a bit of a challenge because we'd like to go announce the projects and launch the next competition. But we announce the projects, we then got to close down until the election, And then in May, we'll be announcing APC4, which is the next round. APC4 is currently planned to be an open competition, so we can have a go at any of the areas of technology. If you go onto our website, there's a lot more information on the projects. And the projects this year, APC3 and APC4, we've got £100 million worth of grant funding, so projects up to the total value of £200 million. This particular project call was for projects in the range of 5 million to 40 million. People say, well, a 5 million is quite a big hurdle. Well, it's deliberately so, because we've got to be focused on value-add projects that are of a significant scale. If the project isn't of a significant scale with volume involved, then clearly we're not going to see the economic value add. But that shouldn't scare off SMEs or smaller organisations, because we're here to try and team you up with, if there's SMEs in the audience, team you up with larger organisations to help you get involved in projects. So the key is come and talk to us. And the other thing is come and talk to us if you've got a project that's not quite going to make the 5 million hurdle, or is possibly going to be beyond the 40 million hurdle. We're happy to have the conversation. And in fact, in this APC3 wave, we have got some huge projects come through, which we're in discussion about at the moment. In terms of the APC network, we have a hub here on that lovely building at the top there in University Square, which is a big green area, unfortunately rather populated by geese and a lot of students, but the geese seem to win out all the time. And I'll come on to talk about the showcase in a moment. We will have we've then got a spoke network, and these spokes are centres of excellence, and the terminology we use is a spoke is a conduit from the hub to a centre of excellence community, collection of people, organisations that are a centre of excellence around the key technologies. And one of the key technologies that hasn't got a roadmap yet, but is very high up the agenda, and I think we might cover it in some of the discussions today about virtual engineering, is the spoke at the Queen Elizabeth Olympic Park, that picture in the middle there, and that's a spoke related to digital engineering and test, and that's led by Loughborough University, but there's other universities involved, Bath, UCL, to name, I think Nottingham might be involved as well. That'll be opening back end of this year, and we will actually have an office. The difference with that one to all other spokes is we'll actually have an office there, and the reason we'll have an office there is, one, because of government, two, because we're right next to the city, and three, because digital engineering, you've got the gaming industry on the doorstep as well, and finally, because a lot of large automotive executives bounce into the city and bounce out. They won't come as far as Warwick, so it means that we can capture them and talk to them about our agenda. The national spokes will be rolling the first one out before PERDA, before we can't talk about things like that anymore, and then the remainder will be through Q2. Just a quick shot here. This is in our building across the way. This is a showcase that we're putting in, and we'll also have a showcase in the London facility. I put this up deliberately because we're funding this space. It's going to have some themes. It's going to be talking about the APC and what we do, but this central area where you can see product is yours. It's for the industry to show off your technology. Show off your technology to colleagues, show off your technology to customers, show off your technologies to students. We want to bring students through, we want to bring school children through. The idea is to enthuse people out there about the automotive industry in the UK, and particularly the propulsion industry in the UK. So I will be badgering people, where's your product? Because we want to keep this fresh, keep product coming through, innovative products through this area. We'll have a similar one in London as well. And I think I've done. Key thing is come and talk to us. There's £500 million of your taxpayers' money to be had. There is a competition. You have to, have to fill in the various documents, but it is there. So come and talk to us.
Garry, thank you.